there's LAN networks, but in future those LAN networks will be replaced by services provided by telecom operators. Well, it means we have to be worried about 5G technologies because some concerns, they are coming directly from this new technology. We have to protect everybody's privacy. We have to protect our business secrets. We have to protect whole our life, which will be connected with 5G networks. Well, and we have some kind of specific concerns connected with some producers. So everybody knows I'm talking about China and Huawei. Because as we know, 2017, they launched a new Intelligence Act. And according to this act, all the producers, it doesn't matter are we talking about software producers or hardware producers, have to collaborate with their secret services. Do we have to be worried about this or not? I think we have to be worried about this. As we all know, national security issues are up to member states to decide, not up to the European Commission or up to other EU institutions. But in practice, it was always so that when those member states, they asked for a common approach, then Commission delivered. And this time, we had meetings of ministers, we had meetings of those heads of cybersecurity units representing all our member states. We had EU summit, and message was clear. The European Commission has to deliver. Now, we are delivering. So, Julian will describe our next steps, how we will deal with the risk assessments and what will be the next. I would like to underline that we never asked just to ban some suppliers. Quite often, some suppliers said that you don't have enough solid evidence to ban us. So I'm not talking about banning some kind of companies. What kind of evidence do we have? Or what kind of evidence we don't have? Or what kind of evidence we do have and we can use publicly? It's totally different issue. When we will have enough solid evidence we can use publicly, it will be too late for us already. We have to deal with risk assessments. And on basis of those risk assessments, we have to take those next steps. But now I would like to ask Julian to describe those next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we're talking about is critical European digital infrastructure. And national decisions taken by one member state or another have European-wide implications. And that's why we're proposing a common approach. It's urgent that we get on with this because decisions are being taken now and over the next year or so, both on letting 5G spectrum and on procuring 5G networks. There is existing legislation which is relevant, and the recommendation makes that clear, whether that's the GDPR, the NIS directive, the Electronic Communications Code. They already provide a basis for member states to take decisions taking account of security dimensions. But we want to reinforce that approach and we want a more coordinated and common approach. So we are proposing in this recommendation today 3 steps. The first step is that member states should carry out a national risk assessment by June to identify potential security risks and to update their measures to better mitigate and manage those risks. And in doing that, they should be looking at technical factors, cybersecurity risks, associated measures to deal with that, such as supply chain diversity standards, but also other factors like the legal and policy frameworks governing potential third country suppliers. And they should be working with their neighbours. So we've suggested that this work might involve two or more member states so that they're not marking their own homework. As a second step, we want the individual national risk assessments to be woven together into a European review of 5G network security by this autumn, by October, that will prioritise the most sensitive and vulnerable aspects. And then, as a third step, by the end of the year, by the end of December, we will turn that into a toolbox of measures to be taken both at national level and at European level to mitigate security threats and ultimately to develop common minimum standards for cybersecurity of 5G networks across the EU. And we think that together these steps will help deliver more security. It's something that we need to do anyway. We need to bolster the cyber security of this critical digital infrastructure, regardless of who is making the equipment or providing the services, because it's in our interests, our European interests, to take this security-based approach. We need to do it for ourselves, not because anybody else has suggested that we need to do this, or because we're reacting to steps taken anywhere else in the world. These are important measures to secure our infrastructure across the European continent. Thank you.
Thank you both. Let's see if we can help you with any questions you might have. Yes, Lorraine?
Hi, Mehreen Khan from the Financial Times. A question for the Commissioners. There's a deadline of the end of 2020 if the EU wants to decide whether it actually needs to take more action on this. Do you fear that that would already be too late because to take further action on the measures if they're not insufficient? Okay, 2019. Do you fear that that already might be too late, given that most of the 5G spectrum auctions are likely to happen sooner?
Well, as we know, in majority of EU member states, when selling those frequencies or organizing spectrum allocation auctions, they always set also some national security criterions when issuing licenses. It's in the toolbox of our member states already, and I'm absolutely sure all our member states they will deal with the risk assessments anyway. As we know, especially when thinking about small member states, it's very difficult to have good expertise in all the possible areas. And believe me, I was Prime Minister of Estonia during the 9 years. So in many, many cases, you don't have this expertise and you have just to trust your allies. So now we would like to organize this coordinated approach, information sharing, which is extremely important. Then to propose common risk assessment. Once again, it will be much more effective than risk assessments prepared by single member states. So in future we have to pay much more attention on security of supply chain issues. Is it too late?
Only 20%.
So earlier is better, of course, but it's never too late. And it does not mean that somehow we have to give up and not to deal with those issues. So those are really serious issues, and we are not starting from zero. As it was mentioned already, there is NIS directive. NIS directive is also about critical infrastructures. We have new telecom codes. So we have GDPR. We have investment screening schemes. According to Cybersecurity Act, we have cybersecurity certification schemes. So we have fully implemented those new rules, and yeah, we have to take those risks very seriously. Yeah. We have to hurry up.
You're right, of course, that some procedures are already underway in some member states. We think that setting this framework out, setting out a clear framework now, will make a difference. In fact, as we set out in the recommendation, we asked member states to take account of this framework in setting conditions for letting of spectrum that's going on now. Also, that strand of combining the different national assessments will start straight away, because we are asking the cooperation group under the NIS directive, that is the national cybersecurity experts, to come together from the end of April to start doing their work. So it's not true that all this sort of is in abeyance until the end of 2019 or 2020. The framework will exist now. The reinforced exchange of information between member states and the work to form a coherent cross-European view will start on the 30th of April. And in this proposal, member states are asked to take account of all of that as they set conditions for any letting or procurement process that is underway.
Do you want to come?
No, just on the timing. I mean, only 20% of the member states have assigned 5G spectrum. So we are at the very beginning of this journey. And so with the recommendation now, those that have not done it have to attach specific conditions on security, and those that have already done it should actually take this into account. So we are at the beginning of this journey rather than at the end.
But, sorry, anyway, once again, I would like to remember that national security issues, those are up to a member state to decide. So not up to the European Commission. And now they asked for coordinated approach, and we will provide this coordinated approach.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
There, left.
Thank you, Shinac. Ivana Dragicevic, CNN affiliate for Adria region. The media reports are saying that the question of 5G and Huawei was not raised today on the Paris meeting. I just wanted to ask you, can you confirm that? Did President Juncker raise it or not? Basically, because what they say, they talked about confidence building, reciprocity in trade and things like that. So was it raised, and how the Commission is dealing with it with China on political level? Thank you.
The meeting in Paris was on global governance. The college discussed the 5G recommendation this afternoon in Strasbourg. Anything else? Yes, please.
Hi, Fu Yunqi from Reuters. Commissioners, would you need solid evidence in order to ban any company? And have you got any feedback from the US regarding today's proposal? Thank you.
So, as I said, we need to be doing this anyway. there's a clear need for us to bolster the cybersecurity of these absolutely crucial 5G networks, regardless of who makes the equipment or provides the services. And we need to have clarity around the cybersecurity provisions, around the resilience, which includes things like diversity of supply, because of the fundamental importance of what's being built. Now, of course, we all know that China is a very important player in this market. They've become increasingly an important player in this market. So any discussion around these issues will inevitably also touch upon China and Chinese service providers. But it's not starting from there. It's starting from the assessment of the risks and the vulnerabilities to our crucial European digital infrastructure. As Andrus Ansip made clear, we're not talking about bans today. What we're talking about is a process that will be based on a thorough analysis of the risks and vulnerabilities, and then a shared approach to defining the best and most effective ways of dealing with those risks and vulnerabilities. But we also make clear in the text of the recommendation that at the end of this process, towards the end of the year, when this work has been done, the possible mitigating measures could include identifying products, services or suppliers that are considered potentially not secure. That is envisaged as a possible outcome conclusion of this process that we are setting out.
Thank you. Anything else? I don't have anyone from Brussels either, so I believe this concludes our press conference. Thank you both. Thank you all.